call to order this meeting of the Ellettsville Plan Commission for Thursday, March 3rd, 2022. Pat, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Yeah, let's move it. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Actually, it's been about a month ago, but you're just not in here much to think about.
Probably should have stood to the side.
Okay, Denise, roll call, please.
David Drake.
Here.
Dan Swaffer.
Here.
Terry Baker.
Here.
Don Calvert.
Here.
Sandra Hash.
Here.
Pamela Samples.
Here.
Pat Wesolowski.
Here.
Okay, the first item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from November 4th, 2021 and February 3rd, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
No roll call.
Okay, that's why it's been a while since we've done this in real life. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is monthly conflict of interest statement. Since we don't have any petitions, I assume we don't have any conflicts of interest. So we'll move on to old business, which is a zoning discussion, and that leaves it up to Kevin.
I leave it up to the board to tell me what they want to do.
Okay.
Short story before, I guess. We are going to be moving forward with having a consultant come in and look at our entire zoning and subdivision regulations and go from there. So that'll be a fairly lengthy process and involve several meetings. So I'm working on an RFP now to get ready to send that out and start getting that moving forward. Other than that, I guess just kind of discuss what the board would like to see. I guess larger picture issues for the new ordinance.
Well, I still would like to have something in the ordinance that puts a time limit on development plans
Yes, I think
that I've talked about before. I don't know what that limit should be. I assume we would have to give them at least 5 years. I mean, and of course, there's a question of whether the limit is to start the project or to complete the project. So we would probably, I think, have to have two limits, one to start the project and another one to finish it. But I know a lot of places have those. I would also like to look at the possibility of making our street requirements wider so to allow for on-street parking on at least one side of the street.
I think there should be some landscaping procedures in there too. We have nothing for landscaping.
In terms of landscaping, are you thinking like, not street trees, but for commercial projects having trees, ornamental trees, plants, I mean, anything?
Yes, yes, yes.
And I love the trees that we're getting in the little, what it's called, between the sidewalk and the curb, but I worry about them destroying our sidewalks and curbs as they grow with their roots. So we definitely need to have, either not have that in the tree plot or have control over something that's very slow growing, but eventually it's going to grow.
Well, it's one of those things that should either be wider or put it behind the sidewalk.
Yeah, maybe behind the sidewalk.
And that's something that I'm sure will get discussed.
And
Go ahead.
one thing we tried to do once, and this is just a little pet peeve of mine, the younger people seem to really just like to leave their trash totes on the curb, and I think they just look terrible. I personally would love it if the town would take over the trash service again. I know Terry doesn't agree with me on this, but the fact that, you know, we have a trash truck, I live on Chandler. I have a trash truck that goes through on Tuesdays. I have a trash truck that goes through on Wednesdays. I have a trash truck that goes through on Fridays that I know for sure. And I'm sure there's others that go through. So it's a lot of wear and tear on our streets. And I would like to either contract with one unit to do all of town and maybe put that on our utility bill, or make some rules that, you know, on Monday, if you're, it would, I don't know how to handle that, but it's so annoying. And they usually come by my house at 6 a.m., and so you always hear them, and I'm sure that wakes people up. But just the wear and tear on the roads, and I mean, when they leave their totes on the street, and we have wind like we have lately,
Yes.
they all end up in the street on their side. And it just,
It looks bad.
it looks bad, and I just, for the life of me, can't understand why they don't want to just pull, it's got wheels on it. Why they don't want to pull it up to the house. Okay, your turn, David.
One thing I was going to say that reminded me, one company came through my neighborhood the other morning at like 4:30 in the morning. They must have really been behind or something, because I'm thinking, what in the world is that? But, so obviously the biggest issue that I think we have to resolve is going to be the zoning uses. I mean, that's the big issue. Let's see. I think we should also have a little bit more specific and stringent requirements on buffering between residential and commercial, because we have so many of those areas with 46 going right through the middle of town. I mean, a good example is the one up there across from the West Side General Store. Now, they did put a berm there, and they've got some landscaping, but, and those people knew or should have known that, I mean, that's been a commercial zoning since before those houses were even built. But I think that we need to make sure that we're not hurting residential areas by adding commercial zones right next to them.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the concerns I've had with our zoning is we do ask for buffering and landscaping, but there's nothing quantifiable about it, and I think it runs the risk of probably getting us sued at some point in the future if we're not completely consistent with that, and I don't know how you do that when you don't have anything to tie it to. So I think, I agree, I think those are things that really need to be spelled out in detail.
And when you get the engineering help with the zoning, will we be able to say, this is the best spot in town for apartment development? We would like to see that type of development here and stay away from mingling with the residential. After that, you know, the one with the Headley property.
Yeah. I mean, they'll look at what uses are right in what areas. I don't know how much they're going, I don't know that they'll work a whole lot with the actual zoning map. That's something I can do fairly easily. I mean, not to notify a lot of people, but I think it needs cleaned up in its own way. But I think what they'll work on is making sure that our zoning, what's permitted, and like David said, our uses are permitted in the right places.
Will they give us an idea where to annex, where not to annex?
No.
Well, the legislature's made annexation almost impossible.
Yeah.
Anyway, unless someone wants to voluntarily annex, says we're not going to have a whole lot of choices.
Hey,
Kevin,
Yeah.
you think the company will be like out of Bloomington? Like whoever does?
There's probably be someone out of Indy. I don't know that there's any in Bloomington to do that.
Well, I mean, I just wondering.
Yeah.
So when we ask for an RFP, is there a minimum that people we have to look at, or can 2 or 3, what if one company puts in? Darla, can we ask for more, or?
I think you could do whatever you want.
Okay.
I would consider, I'll look at this for you, but I would consider that a service, like hiring Bryan and Fanyo or hiring me. So the case law is pretty clear that you can, for services, you can handle it however you want. So you could just, pick one or ask for three bids or 3 quotes, 5 quotes, whatever. I don't know how many people do this kind of thing, so, I mean,
I don't know exactly how many do zoning. I was gonna put something out on the state, planning list, because they do some advertising for that, and
I mean, since you've never done it before, it might be helpful to get several different bids, just to
Sure.
see, or, packages, bid packages, or proposals, just to kind of see what ideas they have.
Does that start here? Do we have, when I say start here,
Bless
do
you.
we have to recommend it to the council?
Bless you.
you don't need to. They've basically said that that was okay. That is what I took from Monday night's meeting.
Well, and I was gonna bring that up too. I think I was a little confused at that point, because it seems like there's a couple of council members that want a lot of input in on it. And I brought up that it should start with this body first and then move on to them, or be commingled as a group, and, whoever gets the proposal, that we, both bodies work with them, that may be helpful. I don't know, because that's what I thought, it should start here, but,
Yeah, and that's really how it would work. It'll be a lot in here. There'll be some public meetings as well.
Sure.
So something similar to the Envision Ellettsville process. So we'll meet in here, we'll have meetings with the public, we can do joint meetings with the council as kind of like a work session type thing to go over. And since both of you are on council, you can act as a liaison between there. And
Sure. What scares me is, because I know there's a couple council members, maybe one in particular, that is really adamant on some of the code changes and stuff, that I don't want to go through this long process and then it get there, and all of a sudden, it gets thrown out at that level.
Sure.
So I just don't know what the right answer is to, how to proceed to where we don't get through almost to the completion of the process and then it gets kicked back at the council level.
I think we'll have, I would plan on having updates at council on a regular basis. Maybe every month or every other month, depending on how fast things are going, ultimately, it will have to be approved by council.
Right.
Or adopted by council.
Does it have to come to us to get the okay?
Yeah. Okay, it would be similar to how we do a text amendment, where it'll get recommended from planning commission up to the council.
And I guess depending on how complicated it is, it could be one of those situations where you want to do it piecemeal if there are some aspects of it that, it might be easier just to break it down into several different ordinances. But we'll have to just wait and see what they come up with. I mean, I know they're doing a full-scale revision, but, maybe we can group the ordinances into certain topics or categories to kind of make it easier for everybody to digest before it goes to council.
Well, I was actually thinking it would just be one ordinance,
One ordinance, so treat it like,
basically a new ordinance.
I was more in the thinking Darla line. I think one ordinance would be convoluted, and
Well, it
to
would,
me, I think it needs to be broke down.
so you think it would be treated just like the adoption of an initial zoning ordinance?
Yes.
And go through that procedure?
yes.
And I'm sure whoever does this will come to us with some
Oh,
questionnaires and
absolutely.
what we want to have done.
Yeah, and that whoever does it will know what the best way to go about that is.
And Kevin, everything you've written down here, I agree, this all needs looked at. I mean, stormwater, all of your points, yes, I agree with, and the lighting requirement, I would really like us to have the downward lighting.
Should we, do you think we should get as specific with the, because there was, I know, Cedar Bluff does it in their PUD, they have a foot candle requirement where it can't be over, or I think it's 0 right at the property line, but, I mean, do we want to get into that level of detail on the lighting, or just?
Maybe some, because, I mean, when you come into Ellettsville at night from the west, there's a huge light at that west side gas station, to the point it's,
Blinds you.
yeah, it's blinding when you're driving. So, yeah, I think we might need some input on that.
Isn't there some suggestion of candle power on that? That'd be someplace.
There is, I mean, there's different guidelines for what they, yeah, there's ways they can light that without blinding everyone.
Of course, we can't get,
Light over there at the ballpark, boy, it lights up my backyard. You should pitch back there, I go let the dog out in the middle of the night, and it's lit up.
Well, I live right behind the ballpark.
But you are lit up then, your
Oh,
whole
yeah.
house.
And,
you can't
it
tell day
depends on when
from
the leaves
night.
are on the trees or not. But I have no problem with that because to me it's a safety feature for us. So,
Oh, yeah, I like some light in my backyard, so when I let the dog out, 'cause a lot of times it's warm, I go outside with them late at night. It's kinda nice to have a little bit of light.
And do we need to look at our abandoned vehicle criterion?
That is, yeah, that's in zoning somewhere.
Yes.
The abandoned vehicle definition comes from the state, is what we've been using. But, I mean, if we're gonna have someone come in here and look at it, you know, we can look at everything
Yeah. I think that needs to be looked at.
in terms of the amount of time they're allowed.
Right.
And our driveways, we have, as a plan commission, have discussed driveways numerous times, and we,
Never talked about that.
we gave in and allowed gravel. And I took a little walk in my addition night before last, and I cannot believe, there's some people whose whole front yard, from property line to property line, are concrete pads. Concrete does look better than the gravel that leaches out into their yard and into the street, but I feel like we're out of control with the driveways.
Well, and the thing with concrete is, if you concrete your entire yard, we don't have anything against it, but that's just more runoff. Runs back out. I know that there's one on your street we either have or are sending a letter to, 'cause they never got a permit for, and couldn't do what they did anyway.
Yeah, I remember those days, the driveway talks.
Yeah, but we really,
Yes.
those were rough.
you know, you got on here about traffic requirements, and I think that's a necessity. That's gotta be a number one for any development.
As far, I don't have my, oh wait, never mind, I do. Sorry.
You got down here, should we require traffic impact
Yes.
analysis?
Yeah, I mean, is that something
And
that,
I think that should be, and like the development going on right now, a right in and right out on 46. I mean, I don't know where you go and with the traffic we have, that we don't have some type of lettering of the law for us.
no, I think that's reasonable to require at this point with the amount of growth we've had in our town. It needs to be looked at. We're gonna need more lights,
Yes.
which no one wants to do, but
No one wants to, but.
They're gonna have to.
Yeah. Speed is going up and up on 46 between us and Bloomington.
Yes.
And how about abandoned buildings that's been, how do I say this? Have not been in use for years, and it's deteriorating. I can think of one big one right now, right on 46.
Which one?
The one across from the gas station used to be where the Royal Chevrolet was there.
Yeah,
Look at that roof on that.
That kind of gets into property maintenance code, and I forget what the other thing is. There's something else tied to that. It kind of would fall outside of zoning, but that's something that could go under our building code. I mean, that's something we can look at. It might not be part of the zoning ordinance, but.
And for a prime example is like the old Swifty station. That was sitting there for what, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah.
And it looked terrible coming into town.
oh, and the lighting there, like Rubicon lost a street light when you come off of 46 into the plaza, and they have never replaced it. And without Swifty being open across the street, that intersection is terribly dark. And this may not be in our purview, but it goes more along with maintenance. If these commercial properties need to maintain their properties, the lighting and the blacktop and.
Yeah, I know we looked, I think Denise and I had looked at that before, and I don't remember exactly how that falls or what leverage we have to make them do anything.
Well, I flat out asked them at a Chamber of Commerce event if they were ever going to replace that light on the entrance there by the tobacco store. And they said when they purchased the property, that light was gone and they had no plans of replacing it. So I don't know how you,
I think part of that, if, going back to lighting, if we require a certain amount of lighting in parking areas or in and around commercial areas, might be one way of addressing that. But yeah, I understand there's some parking lots that are horrible, but I don't know that we have, I don't know how you go about regulating that
yeah,
quite
there's
so
only
much.
so much we
But,
can do, I
you know,
suppose.
that's what consultants are for. They've dealt with this, and I'm sure somewhere along the line. But it's definitely worth asking.
Kevin, you got down here, who should maintain the retention ponds and related structures and subdivisions? Who's doing it now?
That's a good question.
There's some of them that we do. In Arrowhead,
Yeah,
we do, it was like, I don't know why.
There's 2 at Arrowhead, and there's the one on one end and one on the other.
And one stays so wet, you can't
Yep.
hardly maintain it much.
well,
But-
and on top of just mowing and that part of it, what if something breaks in it? Or what if the pipes are clogged up, something like, we run into it now. Most places don't have any way of maintaining any money. I don't know how many active HOAs we have. Not that I like them, but typically that's who would take care of that. Other than that, that eventually runs into our stormwater system, and, you know, problems roll downhill.
So it's in our best benefit for us to maintain them if. the
Well, to make
homeowner-
sure someone's maintaining it.
Right, well, and it's so odd that now with the newer developments, they're just a nice dip in the ground and they look pretty good for now.
Yeah.
But at the time, they just thought that one on the corner of Arrowhead and Thomas, or Tecumseh and Thomas, had to be fenced. And,
That one's pretty deep if it ever filled up.
but I've never
I
seen
think-
it full. But I don't drive around in big granite fence.
I haven't either, but
Well, the one by Pam's house should have to have a 20-foot flood before it would work.
yeah.
And do we maintain them? That one there and the other one?
The town mows those two, but there's a lot of others I don't know who's doing anything with, and that's it's starting to become a problem, and with all the buildings going on now and all the new retention areas going in, it's gonna be a problem, bigger problem going forward.
Who's normally responsible for those? I mean, before the town started doing them? Was it the property owner?
Well, I mean, there really wasn't, I don't think anyone was. I really don't think anyone was doing anything with them. I mean, if it's on, technically, if it's on your property, or whatever portion of it is, you're supposed to maintain around it.
Right.
Well, I think in a lot of the subdivisions, if you look at the property records, a lot of those common areas remained deeded to the developer. So ultimately, I would think they would be responsible.
Yeah, and there's some that are on their own parcels, some are on easements on neighboring parcels. There's no, I mean, there's no clear method of it throughout town. It's just kind of scattered, and I'm gonna guess for the most part, just being ignored.
I know the state of Indiana, I asked you about the one by Taco Bell, and the state of Indiana owns it, and it's gotta be the worst one.
Oh, it's awful.
What was that, Sandy?
State of Indiana.
Send them a notification, it needs to be cleaned up. Hey, they won't pay no attention to it, but, you know, let them know we notice it.
Well, they know.
As well as all those storm drains along 46 that are broken. You know, traffic cones are sitting there to keep you from dropping off in one of them.
Now, they did start, the state did start replacing some right there by the street department on the bridge. They got the first couple. I don't know how far they went, but I think the snow plows might break those.
Oh, that could be.
We got a notice they're gonna be working on some
Oh,
the other day, remember? A couple weeks ago.
I missed that. Good. I know I think that's been an ongoing battle too with the town, that they want the town to fix a lot of their stormwater issues that are in 46.
Yes, that's right.
But yet they won't let us do anything about Jack's defeat.
No. Yeah.
Well, we are in the permitting process
Oh, okay.
with
You
Christopher.
know,
Village.
Sandy was asking about, or talking about driveways on the yard. Is there any way that in the zoning could be presented, you have to have at least a double driveway? Two cars, you know, car, instead of the single driveway, have enough for 4 cars?
It does say you have to have four,
Yes.
any new house has to have a 4-car, space for 4 cars, whether it's,
Okay.
and it counts garage spaces, so.
Well, that just makes it back to a single driveway, though.
Well, as long as you can get 4 cars in there, that's all that's needed.
I'm like Sandy, I could drive around neighborhoods and I could see cars on the yard versus cars in the driveway. And they got gravel on their yard. I don't know if they controlled gravel, but they got gravel on them.
Yeah, I mean, I know we run into that in a lot of the older subdivisions that have
Yeah.
the single-car driveways. I don't know of any new house that's come in the last 3 or 4 years that's had a single-car driveway or single.
No, but I've seen houses where I don't even know how they get out of their car because their driveway is like this.
Mhm.
Okay? And there's no way they could put 4 cars in there. I don't know how they could get out.
There's some, I don't know how they, or why they do that.
Well, because the lay of the land.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why the village try to do that. But yeah, and well, I just saw, and this isn't ours, thank God, but on a Centennial, I mean, there's a couple in there that are almost brand-new houses where they built look like they're about a 45-degree angle.
Go back past, or the new area, past Arrowhead back there. They're like this. I don't know how they could even get in the driveway, to be honest with you. Yeah,
There is one off the.
there's more than one. We go by,
Oh, okay, going up that way. I was thinking,
no, you see go the other side of,
I was thinking Providence Place, where I'm like, I was really confused for a minute. Okay, yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. And that's something we don't have any rate of, and I don't want to turn into Monroe County where you can't build on lots that have, I forget what the maximum amount of slope is, but it's either 12 or 18%, something like that. I mean, and that's something maybe we need to consider,
Yeah.
or,
Be worth looking at anyway.
or at least they have to level it back to something reasonable.
So what's the estimated time on this? Guess, I guess.
Oh, I mean, by the time I get RFP out and allow, a month or so for,
How long before you get an RFP, you think?
if I get some free time to write it, I could have it in a couple of weeks. If not, probably by the end of this month, and have it advertised, probably send it out to a few places that I know do that type of work. I've been looking at some of the other zoning ordinances, see who put those together and how long ago they did that, so get an idea. After that, I figure it'll probably take around a year.
So you think by May we could probably start?
Let's see, so if we get the RFP out for April, probably May we'd be deciding on who we want to go with. So maybe, I would say the summer, definitely.
Because they have to have 30 days to get it in, right? Their bid,
Well, it's,
proposal.
I would say at least.
yeah, I mean, we should. The ones I've read, they haven't been, it's only a couple weeks. It's not tied to a grant, so we don't have to, I don't think.
Could we
But it's good practice.
to a grant?
What?
Could we tie this to a grant?
No, not that, I haven't found any that we can.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
I do think that, our ARPA money, they have changed the rules on it. Originally, it was for lost revenue. You could make up the difference, and now they're saying anything under $10 million then of lost revenue calculation, that you can just like add it to, not put it in general fund, but it would be like spent like general fund money. So that's going to open up a lot on, I know that there's a lot of plans for the ARPA money, but I think that if we needed to take the zoning out of that, it would be pretty justified.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I don't know exactly how much that's gonna be yet. I'm guessing somewhere in the $50,000 to $75,000 range for, oh, no. The county's spent, I don't even know how much they've spent. I wanna say a couple $100,000 on theirs, but,
Now, they had a lot, they had public hearings and community input. Will we go through all that?
to an extent, probably not that extent, but they had a lot of issues with theirs. Plus, they had 42 or 52 zoning districts. I mean, it was insane. We have like 12. So ours shouldn't be nearly as complicated as the county's.
Speaking of the county and insane, I don't know if anyone saw today that they're going to be doing construction starting soon at Smith Pike and Woodyard Road, putting in 2 roundabouts.
Yeah.
And it probably won't be completed till October, so
Of this year?
I believe that's what it said.
Wow.
Yeah, they start Monday closing Woodyard, don't they?
Yeah, I seen the email from Mike. Where is it at exactly?
At the stoplight, right there at Woodyard and Curry Pike. You know where they supposedly improved the traffic by putting in that stoplight and making that curve go around, but which, in my opinion, created more of a problem than it solved. But that should be interesting.
Are they taking that house, the house that sits there, you said the car truck's sitting there?
Yeah, yeah.
They're gonna take it.
I don't know. But is
I
that
know
gonna,
they sure, if they're in his yard.
is that gonna be a roundabout or a figure eight?
It's
Two
a
roundabouts. A roundabout at 46 and Curry, and then another roundabout at Woodyard and Smith Pike.
But I mean, yeah, at Woodyard and Smith, each one of them's gonna be an individual roundabout.
Roundabout, yes. One will be, the one at Smith Pike will be much smaller than the one at 46 and Curry.
46 and Curry.
I'm sorry, I keep
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
46,
don't-
Woodyard and Curry.
Yes. A roundabout on the highway, boy, that'd be interesting.
The one there behind Cole's, the double one, have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what
Jimmy
I had
Dermott
heard. It's
calls
gonna
those
be a
dog
figure-
bones.
That's what I thought.
Dog bones.
That's what they called it at the MPO when they were talking about this project 3, 4, 5 years ago.
I don't like them sometimes. Some people don't know how to drive on them. People will sit there and you're like, okay, get in there, it's your turn, nobody's coming. They just sit there like they don't know what to do.
Just tell them, keep taking a left.
Well, within 5 years, there's gonna
Don't
be
go
one
to
at
Carmel.
46 and 43 in Owen County. They're gonna move the park entrance.
You go to Carmel, Indiana, it's every
43
other
and 46.
street
On the
is a
highway, they're
roundabout.
gonna do one?
Yeah,
Every roundabout has a roundabout.
but then we're probably in the second or third year of it being within 5 years.
But I think we've got some good discussion
That's a big
about the stuff that's
intersection.
coming up on this,
I'm gonna dread it.
getting this done.
So, but if they can get that project finished by October this year, because someone asked me about it, and I said probably 2 years. That would be fantastic. I mean, I know that's still 8 months, 9 months, that's still,
It
Okay, but they
starts
wouldn't,
next week.
This company wouldn't go and, let's take that new addition that's going in, with all them apartments. They wouldn't come through and say, okay, now you got the apartments, but if there was 30 acres on either side of it, that should be housing. Wouldn't they, I mean, be, commercial? Would they, and then I guess the other question I have on that, do we have the right to say yay or nay on what they're proposing?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It'll be our ordinance, so, I mean, whatever we want in there is what's going to be in there, but they'll make suggestions and put everything together based on what we tell them. So whatever, I mean, they'll have recommendations for different things, which will probably be helpful. There'll be some who'll probably say, forget that, but ultimately, they're gonna do whatever it is that we ask them to do. Write it in a way that it's easy for people to follow.
Easier.
Yeah.
Is there any consideration being given at all to what's going to happen when all that traffic comes out, where Headley's at and heads toward Ellettsville, what they're going to do with all that, or change any traffic patterns at all, or?
No, the zoning ordinance won't have any, I mean, maybe minimally touch on that, but for the most part, no, they won't get into the traffic.
I'm not talking about zoning, we're talking about roundabouts and all this. And I was wondering if there was any consideration at all going to be given to that you're aware of.
I don't know anything about, I mean, the county's doing the roundabouts, so I don't know if what involvement anyone from the town has, if our street department knows or not, but.
I guess I asked this before, but would they have suggestions for annexation? We should maybe annexation west, east, north, or south?
Generally not. They may help us with, if we tell them what we're looking at annexing, how that should be zoned and what we want to, would be good for those areas. But for the most part, that'd be more something fall under our comprehensive plan and zoning.
But wouldn't it be worth it if we're gonna pay 50 or whatever the number is, 80,000, to have them give us a little bit insight on that?
That would be a whole different study than what they're doing. What mostly they'll be doing is just going through our ordinance and looking at what we require of different things. It's gonna be looking at the here and now, not,
They're not looking at a vision.
No.
They're just looking at
no.
What we currently
what they
have.
currently have.
Yeah.
Okay, did anybody have any other questions or comments about this? I mean, I think we got a lot of good ideas about what we want done. In that case, we have no new business. Planning Department update. Our next meeting is April 7th. Have anything?
We have a preliminary plat for, I don't remember the name of the subdivision now. It's across from.
Barberry Estate.
Yes.
What was it?
Barberry Estate.
It's across from the school, corner of Reeves and Loudon, where they're building. He's already started. He's got 3 or 4 houses he's building on Loudon Road right now, on the west side. This is going to go back into that area. There's a pond back in there and kind of wrap around all that. I think 60 some lots.
That's been under consideration, hasn't it, for a while?
They are slowly working on it, yeah.
I mean, it seems like we've been looking at that for 2 or 3 years, where they'd planned roads back through there and coming back out onto,
They-
up toward the elementary.
They did the preliminary plat for the 5 lots and kind of talked about them. That's been 2 years ago, I
I know, but
think.
didn't they have a road network at that time?
They might have had an idea, but I don't think they had it completely sketched out yet.
It was just a rough idea of what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because didn't it come from Prominence Point and end up on Loudon Road?
What's that?
Wasn't there a
No,
street?
Yeah,
that-
that's a different subdivision,
Oh, yeah, yeah. This is on
That's
the other side of Loudon.
Prominence
Well,
Place.
this is west of Loudon
Yeah.
Road.
The
Okay.
houses they're building front on Starnes?
They're front on Loudon.
Loudon.
Yeah.
He had 5 lots on the Loudon Road side, and so he got that platted first to build those, get established and then plan out the rest of it.
He's got
Yeah.
a little office there across from the school.
I was thinking
Yeah,
about the one
there is going to
further
be a
east.
drive over by the elementary school, because I do remember, we did talk about that.
Yeah, because we
That-
thought about getting the kids walked across the
Yeah.
street there safely, yeah.
Yeah, they had, that part hadn't been approved yet, but I do remember we did discuss it here. So that is part of this. That'll be coming up in April. And I think that might be all we have. There's other things rumbling around, but nothing else has been submitted yet, so I don't want to say.
Do we know what's going behind the Starbucks? That little
Yeah.
strip mall? What is it?
Oh,
A strip mall.
yeah.
That we don't know what businesses are going in there or anything?
Supposedly a Pizza Hut and a Verizon store from.
Wendy's.
Yeah, see, I keep hearing
Facebook
that.
tells you what's going in.
Okay.
Oh,
I had it.
I
Well-
have seen Wendy's. I didn't think that was so.
No. There was an article in the Herald Times
don't
a
know.
month or 2 ago that the developer said Pizza Hut and Verizon.
Okay, no Wendy's though.
He did not mention Wendy's. That doesn't mean it's
People
not
ask
going in
me all the
there.
time, I said, I've never heard of a Wendy's going in there. There's no drive-through or anything, it's just a regular strip
There's
mall.
Wendy's
Well,
going everywhere.
He only permitted the shell for it. He's not
That's what I
permitted to
thought.
build it out yet.
So I would say no. The Wendy's would not go in there.
People keep saying it, and Wendy's will pop up.
I keep hearing that there's going to be one somewhere. I don't know.
What way down the road, when they replace furniture in here, I'd like to see them consider a curvature instead of a long, straight. Yeah, I can't see the people on that end. They can't see me.
Yeah,
A
this
lot of
was-
times you can't hear them and all that stuff. And that's just something that always bugged me. And I thought, way down the road, we're not talking tomorrow, but it'd be nice if this was kind of crescent.
Yeah, this was a poor design.
So
I
we
think
could see
this
each
was
other.
a donation,
No,
if I remember.
You paid
This
for
table
this.
was a donation.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
From Smithfield Telephone.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, because I remember we looked at different things and it was expensive.
But I agree, a curved one would
Yeah.
be nice.
Would have been a lot better.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that it?
That's all I have.
The next item on our agenda is privilege of the floor. Was there anyone from the audience who wanted to speak to something that wasn't on our agenda?
Look up there on Zoom, Dan.
Dan, have,
I think he's saying no, not Amy.
Okay.
Dan, do you have any trouble hearing us?
Oh, he's muted.
he didn't answer.
Yeah, he-
Do you have trouble hearing us, Dan? We can't hear you. We can't. Hey, wave your hand if you can hear me, Dan.
Dan, can you hear us?
All right, we can't hear you.
So why is it that we can't hear? I mean,
I don't know.
how's
how
this
the
gonna work
speakers
if we
set
need?
up.
That's what happens when you start getting old, Dan, you don't hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it should come through the
Yeah, we
TV.
can hear him just fine, Dan.
Try now.
I have a real hard time hearing everything that's going on because of the poor acoustics. It's very echoey. I won't do this again. I'll come in person next time because it's extremely hard for me to hear because of the acoustics.
Okay. Russ giving us a nod also. Thanks, Russ.
Yeah, I was just curious how,
I hate doing those kind
well,
of meetings.
if we have it done
Never knew
right,
that.
if it was done right, it'd be nice to do.
My
but-
favorite one, though, was when you was laying on the couch.
I was laying on the couch with the phone held up like this.
So I was planning on bringing it up here so they could hear, but then it feeds back and you can't do that,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, it's not ideal, but this is what we have.
Is it mandatory that we do this?
Well, you guys voted to do it,
Well, I know
so.
that, but I realize that, but is it mandatory for us to?
Well, you didn't have to, no.
I think we went or not virtual, we went hybrid, there we go. So virtual and in person, which I think works out for like people like Russ. And if any of us can't make it to a meeting and we want to call in, so that's why I was asking about the sound. It doesn't sound like it'll work very well if we do that way, but
That's something we can work
Yeah.
with more still on getting, I mean, it's been how long since we've had a hybrid meeting? 3 months, 4 months?
Yeah, right.
I'm just happy I got the camera working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss a lot when remember a few meetings ago that woman was yelling at me because I didn't understand what we did at the meeting before that about voting for something. And I was like, apparently I missed that somehow. I
that was
mean,
when you dozed off, I think, while you were on the couch.
no, I don't think so.
But that'll only
I've only done the couch thing one time.
Well, and this external mic here is supposed to pick us up, but
Not very good.
I think our
Not-
whole system needs an upgrade.
It's something I think we just need to mess around with a little bit, and I'm sure we can get it better.
And the other thing is attending to the monitor. I think that unless we pay somebody to come in here and sit at that monitor and see raised hands and take comments, it's just gonna have to be the audience raising their hand to get our attention.
I've been trying to keep an eye on that, but it's hard to do both.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the commissioners could volunteer to sit down there.
I mean, I saw it move earlier.
Nobody's running it, it's in that little camera right there on top of the monitor.
Yeah.
It's unattended.
Well, I saw the mouse move.
That's Kevin. Kevin's
I
got a
got a
mouse.
mouse, I can.
Oh, okay, all right.
I can do that, but
Okay. All right, well, I assume that was Plan Commission comments, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, I second.
All those in favor, aye? We're adjourned.